Welcome back to Black Land. This is episode 5, and the topic is the inequality of land distribution in America. And this topic, which I despise, but it's one that's got to be addressed so that as black people we understand how land was unequally distributed, and how we can actually adjust in this day and time to try and create ways that we can obtain land and obtain property and housing, and approach it in an investment sense and not just in an emotional, I want that home because it's the best home I've ever seen type of approach, which I have done. I've bought one house on emotion, and that was a pretty bad mistake. So let's get into the topic. Again, Black Land is, the purpose of this video series is to educate black people on how they can get involved in the real estate game in various ways, through group ownership, through individual ownership, land ownership, development, investment, any ways possible that that blacks can try and create generational wealth for their grandkids going forward, so that they don't start with the same I guess leg back or lacking in resources, so that they can achieve the things that they would like to achieve without great stress, right? So as we look at there's about 7 acts, policies, or laws that were put in place that allowed black people, that disadvantaged black people from being able to obtain land, and greatly advantaged white people in this new colony at that point to obtain lots of land for free through government policies. Either it was through the British government or through the new colony, which turned into its own country. In both instances, these were laws and acts that were on the books that allowed these things to happen, which in this day and age, many political figures would call them handouts. But because of the skin color, they would never attempt to, and they don't ever attempt to address that. So I hate this topic, so I'm going to try and speed through it quick because I really don't have much interest in it, but it is important. So we start back in 1618, which starts with the Redlining Act, which allowed any colonist from any citizen of Britain who wanted to come to the new colony and obtain 50 acres of land for free. You were able to do so as long as you would obtain an indentured servant and or slave to clear the land and send some portion of your crops back to Great Britain. And so that was absolutely free, and there was millions of acres that were given out to colonists who planted tobacco, sugar, indigo, many other crops, which were sent back to Europe, and for that they were allowed to have this land for free. If we go to the second point, which is the 1862 Homestead Act, it offered 160 acres of free land, and the only requirement there was that the person who was obtaining the land had to pay a small filing fee to cover the paperwork to a process that this land was now going to belong to this person. So you would get, now the number went up from 50 acres, now you get 160 acres of land. And over that time, they handed out 270 million acres of land, which was at that point which was 10% of the U.S. that they had given out for free through a government initiated handout to white Americans, white Europeans who were able to take advantage of this. Blacks were not allowed to take part in any of this. So then we go to 1803, and this one is actually, this is the only one that I have even any kind of warm feeling about. So 1803, the Louisiana Purchase, France had to, France was in a war with Haiti, and they were losing that war, as we all know. They ended up losing it finally in 1804, but in 1803 they knew that they were having issues, that they couldn't, that the war seemed like it was going to be lost, and they were losing a lot of money in that war. And so in order to keep the country itself afloat, they had to sell their colony in North America, and who bought it was the United States of America. So they sold that land for about 800,000. No, it was 800,000 square miles that they sold for 15 million, which today would be $500 million. So in that instance, the small island of Haiti caused France to sell a valuable asset that they did not want to sell. So, but through that, America got that land, and that was the land that was that actually became part of the Homestead Act, which I previously mentioned. Like, that land was part of that 270 million acres that were given out. So those are the first three. Number 4 is the FHA and VA Acts of 1930 that goes into about 1960. And what that was meant to do was to create an economic boost post-war. And so it would increase construction so that, people would buy homes. But now you had a bunch of soldiers and veterans coming home that needed housing. And because they had been gone for so long, many things had changed. Their families had grown. So there was a great need for, one, an economic boost for the country, and also for just how housing itself, and then jobs through the construction, which is a great. The idea of it was that it allowed low down payments for veterans and soldiers who came back from the war. In theory, this was great because they allowed them low money down. The interest rates were low, so they were able to obtain homes that previous to the FHA and VA rulings in 1934 they didn't exist. But those benefits were exclusively available to only whites. So any black veterans that came home, they didn't have any access to those resources. So again, you have a government policy which allowed white Americans to purchase and own land at a discounted rate, and did not allow the same privileges to blacks. So you have that. In the 1944 GI and VA bill, again, same theory, that veterans coming home from the war were allowed to purchase homes at discounted rates in terms of the money. So the interest rate and the amount down was much less, but it was exclusively a white. It was exclusively only available to white veterans. Blacks weren't allowed to buy any land under those programs. And we'll go to 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all in the 1930s through 1980s. So they kind of overlap, but the 5th one, the 6th one actually was redlining. Redlining was government policy again that would not allow either insurance or mortgages to black people in certain areas. So they were only allowed to purchase in areas that were approved. So if they wanted to purchase in a location that was like a white neighborhood, they weren't allowed to. So they were only allowed to purchase in these red line areas. And again, what that did was that it limited the quality and the type and the amount of housing that black people had access to. So that was obviously detrimental to black society. And then finally, blockbusting, which was the practice of, and this was a real estate practice. It was more of a private industry policy that the government knew about and had no problem allowing it to occur. But they would, so when blacks migrated to the north, they were only allowed to purchase in basically old ghettos of Jews, Irish, Polish, Italians. So these were already bad neighborhoods, and as the Irish, Polish, Italians, and Jewish people were able to ascend economically through government aided programs, they moved out of those ghettos and moved into suburban nice tracts. And so, but part of that process was that at times they would speed up the process. So they would tell, if it was a fringe of a ghetto and it was kind of nice, they would tell those Irish people, Italian people, Polish, Jewish, and say, listen, black people are coming, you may want to sell your home now. And they would sell it at a lower rate because of fear. So they were scared that they were going to live next to blacks, so they would take a lower amount of money for the purchase price, and then they would sell that same home to black people for at least 30% more than what the value of the home was. So they would sell it, they would buy it from the previous owner at a discount, and then sell it to blacks at a premium. So again, we were being disadvantaged, and it was just this is how the imbalance of property ownership exists in America. Like you can see from 1618 up until 1980, this was going on, that we were limited. So I bring this up not to kind of feel bad about it, but what you have to do is understand that you can't beat yourself up because your mother didn't have land, or your father or your parents didn't have, the type of land that you see your peers in college have, because they didn't have the same opportunities to do it. So, and that impacts us even through to right now. And there's many politicians and other kind of white supremacists wanting to claim that, oh, you have equal opportunity. It's not exactly true. So we didn't have equal opportunity, and even now it's still a challenge for many blacks to purchase. The last stat from last year's census, I think, stated that every year there's about 2.4 million cases of housing discrimination against blacks every year. So you can claim that, okay, say half of them are, fraudulent. But then that's 1.2 that actually exist that are real. So you currently have people who discriminate based on race. As black people, there are many ways around this, though. So you just have to be smart. You have to have your act together. You have to create a team around you that allows you to purchase in the ways that you want. So you want to have an attorney that understands these issues. You want to have a realtor who understand these issues. I'm not saying that they have to be black. I would like it to be, because then the money stays and circulates through our community. But they don't have to be. They just need to understand and be on your side. And you have to be careful. You have to really interview each person that's going to be on your team: the inspector, the realtor, the attorney, the the loan agent, just everyone. You want to make sure that they have your best interest at heart, because in these times you can still be taken advantage of, and you want to make sure that you're getting the best opportunity to succeed as you can. So that's the end of that one. Episode 5 is done. So thanks again for visiting Black Land. Again, this video series is created to produce information that allows Black people to be empowered to get involved in real estate. My name is Jamie Daniels, and have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, whatever you are, whatever time it is by you. Okay, bye.